Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, this is Roxy Ayers. Thank you for tuning in to She Rox It. Give everybody a heads up. I normally do these shows on all kinds of positive ways. Well, lately not so much. It tend to have been on a negative side and feeling all kind of crusty about everything. But I had it upslope and I was feeling really groovy and everything was great and everything was roses, coming up roses. But then, I got invited to my niece's 10-year-old birthday party, double-digit birthday party. And I've been to a few in my life, and children's birthday parties normally don't affect me horribly, but this is what happened. I stayed the night before the party to help out with filling piñatas and doing different things to help the process go well for the next day for the most glorious birthday party for Juanita Pedrosa, my niece. And she so cute and so appreciative and actually more helpful than anything I can do. I was really there for moral support, I think, which is fine. And I had to then choose to sleep either on the couch or sleep in the bed with my niece Juanita, who is a stage 4 cuddler. She is serious business, and she just hugs and she don't let go. And that's cool, but I usually like a little leg room, a little space, because I'd end up kicking that poor girl because of my MS spasticity in the middle of the night. So I'm laying in bed and praying for God to put a hue of rest over my eyes, and I will fall asleep gracefully and feel all glorious in the morning. And I did not wake up that way. Matter of fact, I have a I have a memory foam mattress. I'm going to leave that in, guys, because this is all a part of the process. The MS process, or just the human being process, and it's not a human being, it's a human being, just covering all the bases so you know I'm not losing my mind. And I woke up feeling kind of crummy, sleeping on a regular bed and figuring out exactly how my body wanted to, recuperate from a late night preparation for a party. And like I said, I did a lot more watching than I did anything else, but just constant talking and redirecting and thinking, and it's chaos. Then, after waking up, I then helped with some different crazy things that went down. We filled these piñatas, and for some reason, her father thought it would be an extraordinary idea to give her 2 piñatas. Now, the gentleman is nice enough in his right, but he doesn't necessarily stay with her, so I think he was really just trying to let her know how amazing she was to him. And I think that's great. Unless you are the filler of said piñata and the person who is going to try to talk your 12-year-old slash 13-year-old slash 21-year-old nephew off of the roof because he thinks that he should do the string pulley thing for the piñata from the roof of the house. And after all, his mom just left to go pick up pizzas for the party. And why not? So it was this big argument. And, really it wasn't so much of an argument, more than like, listen, Auntie, I know what I'm doing. And it's really weird when kids talk to you like you're not the adult because you're usually sitting at, their height, or you aren't able to do the things that their parents do day to day in day in, day out. I am really ruining my bubble today, but I'm going to leave it, guys, because I need you to understand exactly what that situation was for me. And I am having trouble finding my words today. So just to give you an idea of just how crazy it was and just how life altering it really was. So all this stuff happens, and I finally encouraged this kid to get off the roof. And I don't even know how he got up there, and I wasn't even going to investigate. But as he was coming down, I saw that he was going down on a ladder. That was not exactly even a ladder. It was a step stool, and nobody was holding it. And I was stuck at this very high step, watching all of this happen, and knowing that I would not be a very good help. So he comes down off of the roof, and then he comes down off of the roof, kind of pulling down, and his feet slip off of the step stool / ladder. I'm putting my air quotes up because this is what the kid called it. And I was I didn't know what was going to happen. And this guy was holding on with his life. And thank God, his very efficient little sister, whose birthday it was that day, was like, oh, I'll get it. And she grabbed it and put it under his feet. And everything went around safe, and nobody fell and busted their head and made my life any more complicated, and their own any more complicated than it had to be. So, okay, we got through that one. Then, when it was time to hang the piñata, apparently I overfilled it, or they overfilled it, or however you want to look at it. Or maybe it was just a cheap piñata. I don't know. But my nephew brings it out to hang it after I made my way down these evil stairs that had no rails on them, mind you. And I did it by lowering my walker onto the ground on the side, which there was a whole lot of clearance to have mistakes. I would have been in the same boat as my nephew, I imagine, was, or almost in. And so I lower it, and it was fine, and I get down, and I felt like a superstar, but then I realized it had rained the day before, so I am stepping in the flower bed, and I'm going to track mud into the house eventually. But I put that on the shelf. I put it on the shelf, guys, because you know what? We're hanging a piñata. So the kid runs inside to go grab said piñata, and yes, it was overfilled, and it busted. It didn't just bust, though. What happened was the handle fell off of it, and it hit the ground, and it busted on 50 different sides. And there weren't even that many sides, guys. It was like, how do you hang a piñata that does that? But thank God we have this really tiny Pikachu piñata, or whatever the heck it was. Maybe it was a minion. I don't know. It was yellow. But then it didn't have as much candy, and there are going to be quite a few kids, and so you're going, well, what do I do from here? So finally, we get a plan to hang it, and it was good, and it was able to be lifted and lowered based on what we could tell at that time. And this was a tiny one. We still had to go in and deal with Frankenstein piñata and see what we could do to make it work, because a lot of the good candy was in that one. And, really, we didn't want it to be wasted. We wanted the kids to be happy, so okay, let's do that. And so what happened was, we take it inside, and I call my mother-in-law, who's coming to the party too, and told her to pick up some yellow duct tape, and we were just going to Frankenstein its butt off, and the grown-ups can beat it up until the candy falls out. But it'll be worthwhile in the end of it. So the kids will have the tiny one, and then the grown-ups will have this huge one to beat up and get candy out of for the kids. And it'll be a spectacle, so everything is great, no harm, no foul. Then I realized that we may have forgotten. We forgot to do the wrapping of the saran wrap for this crazy saran wrap prize game, meaning you have to put the gift, or not the gift, but the prize in and then wrap the saran wrap around it, and then wrap it a few times wonky, and so it's hard to read. Then you had to then put another gift in it and then wrap it in the circle, and then put another one in and wrap it in the circle and twist it about ever so crazy. And then, and then, and then we had to just keep doing it and keep doing it. It was like $1 bill, and maybe it's just one piece of candy. You don't know what you're going to get. This game was done by this giant ball, and kids roll dice to find out if it's their turn in good order, I imagine. And hopefully by the end, everybody gets a little something. And this is something to do to avoid doing those little gift bags, which I promise it's a good idea for any normal person. I think it can be a thing. But it wasn't a great thing in the scheme of things for me. The kids loved it. Everybody else loved it. So what happened was my sister comes back from the store, and the party starts happening, and it starts popping, and everything's going, and we have the pizzas, and we have the foods from other people that are coming, and we have everything working out beautifully. And they go outside to do this piñata thing, and there were a few other games before, which was great. And then the piñata thing was happening, and it seemed like the piñata that we had up, which was the Pikachu or the Minion piñata, was getting beat up pretty easy, and it was falling all over the place. And so it worked out good because the kids got some candy, but then it wasn't very much, and then they were fighting like dogs for the candy. So my sister, after going through all that work to make sure this thing was Frankensteined with the yellow duct tape and hung so very carefully, almost, she goes, you know what? Forget that. Guys, gets the older guys to come by, and the young men or the kids' fathers, and just throw them out to the kids, all the candy to the kids. And both me and my nephew looked at each other like, but we did a lot. You let it live its life purpose. It's like, a Christmas tree. You don't want to have a Christmas tree up and never decorate it. It needs to live its purpose. And it needs to live the purpose that we put so much work into. And why? Why? But in the scheme of things, it turned out to be an easier feat than dealing with kids hitting each other with sticks and falling down and scraping their knees. And I have to tell you, there was a bouncy castle in the back also, and nothing but children screaming. I mean, mayhem. And then one would cry, and then one decided it was a good idea to take in some kind of weird, like, spray foam stuff in there, and then we get into an argument with one of these children who apparently have, authority issues or misunderstand who the grown-up is, and they're arguing whether or not, it's okay to take this spray stuff in there that they won off of one of these little prizes and stuff, and this little girl got so mouthy, it was ridiculous, and I could have lost it. I could have been like, you know what, little child, I don't know what your problem is, but you just need to tell your mom to come pick you up. But no, that didn't happen. We decided we're going to roll through. Everything's going to be fine, and everybody got something to eat, be it pizza or some really yummy Mexican food that my aunt was able to pull through along with my sister. And that's one nice thing about going to my sister's house. She always cooks really well, and, nobody burns the house down, so it's a beautiful thing. So then comes the ball. What ball, you say? The saran wrap ball. The saran wrap ball full of stuff. And a bunch of kids sitting in a circle, and they're supposed to pass this ball one at a time in order, sequential order, mind you, so that the one person could roll for a pair of anything, so that then it was their turn, and so on and so forth, and back and forth and around and around. It was supposed to go safely and comfortably. But I was sitting on the couch watching something happen that was blowing my mind. My sister had the dice, and she dropped it in the center and had them fight like dogs for this dice. Oh my goodness, it was screaming, it was talking too much, it was fighting over who got the dice last, and and that was a big ball of stuff. So you can only imagine it took an insane amount of time to get to the bottom. But before we get to the end and we're happy because it's done, arguments and then crying and then the birthday girl crying that she didn't get anything out of the ball of prizes. And then we tell her, no, it's okay because you get so many prizes of presents on your table, so it should be fine. My niece isn't really a brat. She's not. She's a pretty altogether helpful little girl. But I think seeing everybody win something kind of neat and cool, and she helped pick out all the stuff that was going to be in it, so maybe she had her eyes on something. I don't know. But she threw a fit, and then the kids were still fighting over who had the dice last, and why, and this, and that, and then let's have some cake, and then they get all wired on the cake, and I don't know, dude. This is something I don't think I'd wish on anybody, especially somebody with any type of MS fatigue. But the biggest, most awful thing was then we have the MS sensory overload. I was rolling thoughts in my head saying, okay, now I have these kids screaming and fighting over this ball, and obviously, nobody is going to handle this, and it's chaos, and that gets finished after all of these other little moments where life-threatening situations, or maybe not so life-threatening, or tracking mud into your sister's house because you had to trudge through the mud to get to the piñata, and so that happened. And after it was done, I didn't realize it, but I was having an episode. Because I was asking, Marissa, how is that game supposed to go? Did you watch the thing? There's a YouTube video that tells you how to do it. Did you watch? Really, I'm pretty sure that you're supposed to go in a sequential order or some kind of order, and da-da-da-da-da. And my cousin, who's very smart, or very smart ass, depending on how you look at it, goes, let it go, Roxanne. Everything's fine. You can't do anything about it now. And because I was just ranting, I was like, I don't understand what's going on. This is wild. What is the deal? I don't understand why we couldn't have done it. And I didn't realize it. Through most of the day, I was doing some serious fault finding and complaining. And it didn't start until after the life-threatening predicament my nephew was in, and all of the things kind of falling into place, and me not having enough sleep. But then this. The ball of saran wrap. The ball of saran wrap game. There was no order, people. There was no order, people. And I just started talking, and everything I could say about anything was wearing me out. Then, my mother-in-law sits down, and my sister shows up with her dog, and her dog begins to hump my mother-in-law incessantly, which, okay, that happens sometimes, and then you redirect him. But my mother-in-law has really horrible boundaries. She loves puppies, and she wants them to be okay, and not necessarily to hump her, but she doesn't want to mess their domination trip up, because that's what it really is, and this is what she says. And I say, okay, fine. And then he's acting like a maniac, and she's like, oh, you're so cute and so wonderful. And then she realized he chewed her shoelaces off. And I said, what? Put that dog outside. He is causing problems. He is humping your butt off, and we've got people coming in and out. We don't want you to be the first thing they see, Mom. We don't want them to see, Johnny Ayers getting, her junk humped like crazy. And so here we are. And all I could do was just stop and sit there for a minute. And then I get up to get a plate for my husband because he didn't get to go. And I asked my sister to help me because some of the stuff is a little precarious. And last thing we need is a problem with Roxanne dropping food all over the place because she has horrible depth perception. And my sister probably being tired because she has MS too. But she has like supernatural MS, which I'm not even going to go into. But watching it in general is exhausting. Oh, we're doing well. Good for you. And then, so, I went to get a plate, and it looked like she gave my plate to my cousin, handed it to. But apparently it was something that she had left right behind me, and I didn't see it because my vision is impaired and my judgment is impaired because I'm hungover on birthday party. And I just snapped. And I was like, "What the heck, dude? Why are you taking this plate?" Da, da, da. Like, Roxanne, yours is right there. And I go, "Oh, all right. I guess I'll go into the living room now." So I sit down and I start talking, and before I knew it, I was crying. And who cries at a children's birthday party? What kind of monster does that? I'll tell you what kind of monster. Roxanne's your monster. She got so full on all the BS that she lost her freaking mind. And I don't know, guys. It was probably one of the most real, unreal circumstances that I could even imagine. And in the stuff, all I could do was pull up tears, just cry. And then my aunt sits down and begins to tell me about her sister, also my aunt, obviously, who had MS when she was a child, and how she had these moments where she required serious quiet time to rebuild her mind and her heart, and so she could move forward and do what she needed to do, and then how amazing she was. But there were times where she almost dropped her baby, and I just kept crying. I was like, this is way, way too much. I can't hang anymore. And I snapped. I mean, I wasn't screaming, but I was like, "Kids," because apparently we were going to take them home with us after the birthday party, so I was going to be exhausted on top of exhausted. So this happened, and I say, "Okay, all right, I forgot I said I would take them home with me, but it was before the different things and the piñata debacle, and then uh, okay. Kids, get your shoes, get your stuff together because we're leaving without you if you're not careful." And then I'm sitting there as this is happening, and I realize my mother-in-law is not going anywhere. She's just visiting and being social, and she's my ride home. She's my pathway to sanity. I'm telling you, I can't even imagine how I didn't lose my crap more crazy or do more crazy stuff, because it was beyond measure. And it was just a child's birthday party, a family member's birthday party. And I was being a big old brat, possibly. Or I was being an MS person, beyond exhaustion, beyond, I can't hear loud noises in repetition over and over and over again. And maybe not even the same ones. You have different levels of laughter, screaming, madness, and kids almost dying, and oh, I didn't get this, why did they get that, and oh, what did this kid say, and this little weird dog is humping me, and oh, oh, yeah, that was my day. That was that child's birthday party / the depths of Hades. So, pretty much hell. MS hell. But I made it through, and I took the kids home with me, and they were angels at that point, because they were exhausted, and they passed out on the couches. And these couches, are right in front of the television where I normally watch my evening shows and stuff. And so I had to read, negotiate, and go lay in my bed, which I knew was only a means to an end, and I was going to pass out. So, like a big girl, I took my medicine, tucked the kids in on the couch, went to bed, and sailed off into hopefully really good sleep. And considering the way this whole story went, you might have thought that I was full of nightmares and stuff like that, but no, I slept like a baby. Like a baby, and it was glorious. And the next day, I told myself, that is ridiculous for anybody. But sometimes children's birthday parties are just not for you, Roxanne. You don't need it. They don't need you there. You're not going to be a heavy lifter. You can be moral support and then bone out early and just miss all the chaos. Couldn't you? And the answer is yes, I could. Or I could schedule something so I know that I could be here for just the right amount of time and be okay and not freak out and not be tired and stressed out. Because that goes on for the next day. And sometimes the day after that. You know, MS fatigue, it has no rules or regulations. But usually it's going to say that the worst case scenario is the choice being made by the universe, and for me, by God. And I wonder why for a minute, and I cry. But then I realize that I've got this. I can do this. I think I can. I don't know. Maybe I can. But anyways, thank you, God, for the air in my lungs. Thank you, God, for helping me get a good night's sleep after that maniac situation. So this is all I have to say about it. Children's birthday parties or the gates of hell or same. I feel like, depending on what you're dealing with your fatigue and your MS, you have to be truthful with yourself, with your abilities of what you can handle and what you can't handle. So let's just be real with ourselves and be honest and protect ourselves, because nobody needs a 3-day hangover from a children's birthday party. Because you love these kids. You love your family. You want to spend time with them. But there's always little undertone dramas and stuff that you know about as adults that the kids don't know, and then everybody's talking trash in one angle or another. So, long story short, Roxanne Ayers has no business hosting a child's birthday party or not spending. I don't want to be there for a day and a half.